And of course, to absolutely nobody's surprise, turns out that the young Mima, as he's dubbed in, I can't believe he called himself that, but whatever. Maybe we'll get onto his stupid Twitter feed one day. Who knows? But of course, Leicestershire, you may remember, got rid of its flood defense committee, a committee that brought together a panel of experts, all these different environmental agencies, the water companies of the area, together to discuss floods, how they can reduce them, how they can make sure that they can respond to floods and make sure that these things don't happen in the future. Completely axed that entire committee and instead put it under the environmental committee. And oh, don't worry, we'll just have a couple of few extra meetings a year. We're getting now to a flood season. In fact, because of our current weather at the moment, because it's been so hot, if we go into a very wet autumn, there is a possibility that the ground remains quite hard. That means that the water, if there is a suddenly severe downpours, that water isn't going to seep away quickly into the ground, meaning you could have floods. And guess what? That is an effect of the climate change. That is why you need things to look at into net zero so you can limit this type of stuff. So what do these geniuses then go and do? Well, they go, oh, but don't worry, we are still for the environment. We're going to put all the cash that we've saved by axing all that net zero stuff by putting it into flood defense. Now, here's the thing. You are putting money from something which would help prevent flooding into flood defense. So the thing you are no longer going to do causes more flooding, which in the long run means you have to put ever more money into flood defense. Reform UK. Idiots to the last, quite frankly. So we're going to get into this because, oh boy, yeah, this is just stupid. And you've just seen over in Durham, they voted down the climate emergency that Durham they counteracted it. So maybe we'll do that in the next video. I don't know. We'll see. But as always, thank you very much to everyone who does, again, helps and support the channel. Please do remember, of course, to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below as well. And of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well so you get notified of when we drop a new video. And of course, as always, there is the links down below. There's the Patreon page, there's the Buy Me Coffee link. We can buy me a coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the YouTube membership button as well. So remember, if you are a Patreon supporter or a wanted part of the YouTube membership, you do get a monthly video, a weekly video, shall we say, that I do for you, and I've just done one on that. So go check those out by all means. So let's crack on then into this because, oh boy. So council now redirects net zero cash to flood defences. So, a Reform UK council has now reallocated £2 million of earmarked carbon reductions reserves to flood mitigation initiatives. Leicestershire County Council has approved a change now in focus of its previously agreed net zero action plan, from reducing carbon emissions to climate adaptation to respond now to severe weather events. And it's just like, because you do not do that, because you are refusing to go along with that net zero stuff, you are then causing more severe weather events. I cannot express how many people, and we'll get on to this in a moment, people have done studies, experts that have come out and just said, yeah, that's dumb. That is so dumb. Anyway, Adam Tilbury, the cabinet member for the environment and flooding, told colleagues that he fully supports the move of the funding, saying that the threats of flooding was here and now. Conservative councillor Deborah Taylor warned that in the coming years, Parliament will, of course, may expand the council's legal duties now in tackling climate change, and she could not see anything in the report that might mitigate this risk. Again, very true. In 2022, the previous administration set aside £2 million worth of reserved for providing initial investment into carbon reduction initiatives, agreed now as the net zero strategy to end Leicestershire's contribution to global warming by 2045. In February of 2024, this was now reassessed in the light of the council's now increasingly constrained financial position and the target of 2050 to reach net zero in the county was set. Council documents added. And again, I think council's going towards net zero because there's a ton of initiatives that the businesses and councils and things can do to reach net zero, which are actually really positive and in the long run, a lot better for the council and for businesses as well. But of course, not according to these people. It's all net nonsense. So, in February, so the deputy leader of the council, of course, Joseph Brom, said that I think it is absolutely great to see us starting to scrap now the wasteful, net, stupid zero agenda. Anyway, just denying science then. And instead now putting forward funding towards something that actually matters, like tackling flooding, which has now been neglected for far too long in Leicestershire. Again, it hasn't. You are the ones neglecting flooding because you got rid of the Flood Defence Committee, a committee which had cross-party approval, and every single one, even the independents on the council that remained, were like, why on earth are you getting rid of this? That is a really good plan. That is a really good initiative. What are you doing getting rid of it? To which they're like, oh, yeah, it's just a waste of time having this committee when we could just discuss it in the environmental committee. It's like I say, with the way that flooding is now increasingly happening in Leicestershire, it is inevitable that flooding will happen soon, and it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say when this starts to happen during their tenure, and how they deal with it. So, council documents, of course, said back on the 6th of January, during an unnamed storm, a significant rainfall led now to the worst flooding event ever in recent history just in Leicestershire. According to the authority, an estimated 900 properties across Leicester and Leicestershire and Rutland region were flooded, including a confirmed 717 in Leicestershire. The Reform UK councillor, Harrison Flower, said the UK authorities of all sizes like to parade their net zero efforts like some badge of honour. But in reality, it's nothing more than shallow virtue signaling and PR. Many of these net zero initiatives that they've taken part in, for example, electrifying their vehicles, guess what? They don't have to spend money on fuel, which, guess what, turns out to be cheaper for the council, believe it or not. There's a lot of net zero initiatives that help councils so much. It's more than what this guy makes out to be virtue signaling and PR. Again, someone should actually ask him, what do you mean virtue signaling? What do you mean PR? Can you show us any example of that on the council that you've gotten rid of? It's not, but that's what they should be bombarded with and asked. Council documents, of course, prepared for that meeting said that the role of local government in combating climate change has now been constrained by a lack of now clear legal duty, as well now a lack of funds from the central government. The document said that the Environmental Targets Bill, which was currently now before Parliament, which also aims to introduce statutory objective requiring public bodies to contribute to the delivery of targets to address climate change. Interesting when that bill's going to come in, how these reform councils are going to respond to that. The report also went to add, in summary, the proposal under the considerably presently now appears, of course, lawful. However, the cabinet, of course, should have in mind that in the coming years, Parliament will, of course, expand the council's legal duties. So they've effectively tried to get rid of this, to not do this net zero stuff, when they know full well that in Parliament right now being discussed is a very bill to say, hey, councils, you have a statutory and legal obligation to help reduce your net zero stuff, help reduce your carbon footprint, start doing this, basically. what are they going to do then? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes down. But I have said this before, and I will keep on saying it again. I think sooner or later there's going to be a clash between one of these reform councils and the government, and it will be over some sort of statutory obligation that they have ignored or not done or are not fulfilling. And it'll end in two ways. Either A, that council is going to get absolutely sued into oblivion by people not receiving those services, um, which again will be funny. Well, not for the other residents in that area, but again, shows why you should get out and, make sure that these idiots don't get in. In Kent, 77% of people did not vote in their last local election, which again, why do you think Reform won when 77% of people did not vote? It is the same in all those other councils as well. The vast majority of people in those counties and those councils did not vote. Speaks volumes to why Reform won. Speaks very much volumes. So yeah, it is inevitable sooner or later there's going to be a clash, but it's just what type of clash. And we've noticed this before, that they are now starting to emphasize, oh, we've done this all legally, we've done this all by the books, because that's what they're being told by the office to say down in London. So we'll see what happens when that bill passes, when councils are have a statutory obligation to reduce their carbon emissions, their carbon footprint, and actually engage in net zero stuff. We'll see how these councils react. But of course, as always, until next time, tell me what you think about this. And of course, as always, click the like, share button on your way out. And of course, as always, don't forget to ring the bell, and we'll see you all next time.